But we are also cognizant of the fact that the most recent inflation prints do influence inflation expectations. And that is why it is important that the actions of the MPC are forward-looking so that future prints of inflation are consistent with our inflation objective and thus help to bring inflation expectations down to the target as we have it. And so Kopano says the QPM had forecast cuts of 50 basis points for this year, and how committed is the MPC to realize that the QPM is one input into our decision-making process. And we will look at what the QPM says, and we can outsource our decisions to the QPM. We sit and we have deliberations about what the outlook looks like and what the appropriate policy would be to deal with that outlook, and what are the risks to the forecast, and whether those risks are materializing or are threatening to materialize, in which case we will have to consider policy appropriately to make sure that we deal with the risks. And so then this brings links back to the question of consensus, which Palesa raised, and how difficult is to you said sufficient consensus. No, it's a unanimous decision. It is not just it's a unanimous decision of the committee. It's never easy. This MPC, there are 3 PhDs in these MPCs, and you put any 2 of them, each one of them will have 2 opinions. So now imagine with 3. And so the deliberations are always rigorous, and what is in no doubt is that we consider all angles, and eventually we arrive at a decision. And so it is never easy. The idea, it's always great to say that we have got unanimity, but we do not always strive for unanimity. We actually sometimes take pride that we come to you and says that there were different views in the committee, because it shows you that there isn't groupthink in the committee, that there are different views and there is a contestation of ideas, and that is very important for the arrival of an appropriate policy stance. Dalu, the El Nino weather conditions, we have highlighted this throughout last year, and it is becoming trickier. There is, but now looks like the risk of to the crops could materialize more than what we thought of last year, as we pointed out that there are dry and hot weather conditions that might be putting a threat to the field crops. They might end up being less than what was expected. As a matter of fact, the national crop estimates had already come up and revised their output for crop estimates this year lower, and as we would have seen in the past, that poses a risk to food inflation, and that complicates the disinflation process that we had actually seen. GFACRA, there is a piece of legislation that must be passed, which is called the Appropriations Act bill at the moment. Until such is passed, there will be no transfer that will take place from GFACRA to the Treasury. Hilary.
Hilary Joffe from Business Day. A follow-up question on the GFACRA. how does that make your implementation of monetary policy more complicated? And at least in simple terms, can you run us through how that affects the day-to-day of monetary policy and whether it has any influence on monetary policy decisions, because you're pumping a lot of money into the market? And second, unrelated question, there are 5 of you on the committee this time. We are looking forward to 6 of you next time, with Mampo Modise joining you. You'll then have an even number again and a casting vote for you, Governor, which I know is not the ideal. Will you then be looking for a 7th member of the committee?
Thank you. I have said so much about GFECRA, and when I am tired of saying it, I ask DG Kasim to say it. Maybe now that we have got a new kid on the block, who is in his 2nd MPC, I give this question to him.
Go for it, David.
Easy one. Okay, thanks, Hilary, for the very easy question. As you know, it's an extremely complicated subject and very hard to explain clearly. So we expect to expand the liquidity surplus. We operate a surplus system for monetary policy implementation since mid-2022. The idea here is that we pay interest on excess reserves, like a lot of other big central banks. We pay that interest at the policy rate. If banks have got a better idea for what to do with the money, then they can go and do it. But depositing money at the central bank means it's very safe, and it's very liquid because it's cash. It's in your current account, literally. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for a bank to go and buy some other asset that pays less than the policy rate if they can just get the policy rate with us. So the expectation is there's more money in the system, but it all comes back to us at the end of the day, and it doesn't change in a very large way financial conditions. The banks just have a bit more liquidity. When we built out the surplus system, we think that got rid of some distortions. We saw some movements in year-term rates, JIBAR, the FX implieds. They compressed towards the policy rate, probably a good thing. In 2023, when we expanded liquidity from about 45 billion to about 80 billion with the drawdown of the sterilization deposit account, which is Treasury's money, we saw very small impacts on market rates. And our understanding of that is that once the market had more cash than it needed, putting more cash into it really didn't change a lot. This is a larger amount of money that will phase in. We plan to do it quite slowly. We plan to tell people in advance how the liquidity position is going to evolve. We want to have a smooth transition like we achieved with the last 2 surplus changes. We don't want to surprise anybody. We don't have a material change in financial conditions. And so the policy stance should continue to be captured by the repo rate, which is set by the MPC, and not by another variable, which is the amount of liquidity. So it's still, you want to know what the policy stance is, it's the policy rate. Thanks.
Zianda?
Thank you, Governor. The next question is from Aldrin Sampear at SAFM. He's asking, Governor, at the FSCA industry conference, you said you were confident that we will exit grey listing by 2025. What informs this confidence, as some analysts say it could be 2026, also considering the lull that normally comes with the general election season?
Is that it from online?
We've got 3 more questions, Governor, from the same person.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Go on, Aldrin.
It's Atul Dlamini from Alliance News, Governor. The MPC statement says major global central banks are expected to cut rates at a slower pace and to start cutting at a later stage. Is this the scenario that is likely to play out in South Africa? CPI has risen for the first 2 months of 2024. What do you read into this increase? The third and last question, Governor, is inflation expectations suggest that CPI is unlikely to return to 4.5 midpoint. To what degree does this worry the MPC? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I got David to deal with GFECRA there. Hilary, I have not forgotten your MPC question. I'll come back to it. DG Fundi, you are more optimistic than I am on the grey listing being removed in 2025, so I will ask you to deal with that question.
Thank you. So the grey listing is more like a relay race. So there are a number of government departments that are involved. Some of the requirements relate to supervision and regulation, and that's the area in which we, the South African Reserve Bank, have got responsibility. Some measures relate to financing of terrorism, and that requires law enforcement and intelligence agency involvement. And there are some that involve departments like, or the areas like the Master's Office or the companies and intellectual properties area, which are responsible for the registration of companies and trusts. And then there is general requirements around law enforcement and prosecution. So the reason why we are optimistic on one part is that in terms of the technical requirements from FATF, meaning, or from the Financial Action Task Force, do we have the laws that allow us to tackle money laundering and financing of terrorism? We have passed a big chunk of that requirement. Where we are now is the work where they test our effectiveness. Are we implementing our own laws and our own rules, and can we do that consistently? And these are areas that we are working on. So, Eldred, I would say that departments are working steadfastly on this, and the bulk of the work is done by technocrats and not by our political principals. We do have the necessary support at that level that has come through from Cabinet. But in terms of your concern that there will be a lull after the elections, the bulk of us that are getting this work done under the leadership of the Treasury are technical people. There are areas of vulnerability that we are aware of, and some of those relate to how steep some of our penalties, financial penalties that we give on institutions are. There are some capacity challenges in law enforcement and some on the prosecution side, but we are working in partnership with the private sector. We're required to see how we can enhance the capacity, but we are all steadfastly working to achieve our 2025 deadline.
Thanks, Fundi. Rashad and Chris, one of you must deal with the pace of the major central banks and how it impacts on our pace, and the other one of you must deal with the rise in CPI early this year and the impact of expectations and whether we are confident that we could bring this thing down to 4.5%.
Okay, that is the Reserve Bank Governor, Lesetja Kganyago, as well as the members of the Monetary Policy Committee following their meeting. And the decision that has been taken is that the repo rate, as analysts, at least as some analysts and economists have been predicting, is that it will remain unchanged. Also, I guess, following what has happened in the United States with the Fed also leaving their interest rates unchanged. So the South African Reserve Bank leaves the repo rate unchanged at 8.25%. We'll bring you some analysis with regards to what the Reserve Bank Governor had to say and also the concerns around expectations that we could see an increase again on food inflation. That conversation coming up a bit later on. Also tell you what's coming up on the show after the sports with Duming Khapele. It's 3:30, time for the news headlines.
Thank you, Aldrin. In your headlines, Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago has announced that the repo rate will remain steady at 8.25%, meaning that the prime lending rate stays at 11.75%. 6 ANC councillors in the Mzumbe municipality on the KwaZulu-Natal South Coast have resigned from the party and their council seats. They were suspended by the party last year when they defied the party and voted with the opposition to remove an ANC mayor. And the Durban Magistrates Court has heard in the murder case of rapper Kinan, aka Forbes, how one of the accused, Lindokuhle Ndimande, acted as a spotter for the shooters, while the musician and his entourage dined in a Durban restaurant last year. Forbes and his friend Tibello Tips Mutswane were gunned down by the two men just after they left the restaurant. I'll have details on these and other stories at 4.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic. Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, congestion with heavy traffic on local routes in the vicinity of Noord Street taxi rank in central Johannesburg. In Bedfordview, the N3 northbound has a stationary vehicle on the ramp to the N12 east at Giluli's interchange, and the N3 southbound has a stationary vehicle at Van Buren Road. Golden Highway southbound is queuing through Naturina area, and Eskom Patleli Drive northbound in Pretoria is slow moving towards the Putco department. In KZN, the N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle before Spaghetti Junction. The N3 eastbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The N3 westbound is queuing towards the ramp to the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction. The M7 eastbound is queuing towards Bel Air Road. The N3 eastbound is queuing, and that's at Marion Hill Plaza. And the N3 southbound has a stationary vehicle at Ashburton causing heavy delays. In Cape Town, the M5 northbound is slow moving towards Kubeck interchange. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend, and Baden-Powell Drive in Khayelitsha has sand on the carriageway near Monwabisi. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Kapele.
And Dumi standing by to give us an update on sports. Good afternoon.
Afternoon. I love the flowers.
Oh, thank you. Beautiful flowers from our beautiful colleague, Bridget. Beautiful roses.
Why is everyone thinking that today's your last show?
I don't know.
When is your last show?
My last show is on Friday.
Okay.
So I'm like Tuli Matonzeda. I work until the last day. So even if it is a public holiday, I'll work until the last day. Speaking about working, somebody who won't be working for Banyana Banyana is Andile.
Absolutely. A very good afternoon to you. Starting things off with football news. Banyana Banyana head coach Desiree Ellis has confirmed that goalkeeper Andile Dlamini has withdrawn from the squad that will face Nigeria in the final Olympic qualifier, and this is due to medical reasons. South Africa will face the Super Falcons in a two-legged qualifier, with the first leg on the 5th of April away in Nigeria and the second one at Loftus Stadium in Pretoria on the 9th of April. Ellis says she's comforted though by the fact that she has the likes of Rufule Jane and Bambanani Mbani who are back after their long-term injuries.
Where we've lost players at the last minute, we obviously, minus Andile has withdrawn through to medical reasons, but I'm really, really happy, that we have Pambanani back, we have Bongeka back, we have Siboleli back, we have Rafil Jani back. That really warms my heart, and it's very encouraging because, those are your more experienced players, and experience in this essence is really going to help in this situation because, as you've earlier said, it might be hostile because we know how passionate the fans of Nigeria are back home, and they will be screaming for their team, and we need that experience to be able to get over this hurdle.
Well, we wish Dlamini well. And still talking about national teams on the men's side of things, Bafana head coach Hugo Bruce has slammed down reports suggesting that he could be Tunisia's next head coach. Bruce says that he's staying put as SA's boss until Safa decides his future with the team. Over the weekend, it was reported by Tunisian media that Bruce had planned to leave the SA team just after their game against Algeria, where they played out to a through-all draw yesterday. However, Bruce cleared up the report, describing it as rumours, as he insists that he's committed to his job ahead of the World Cup qualifier matches in June. In the meantime, Nottingham Forest has been fined £75,000 by the FA for failing to control players and staff after their loss to Liverpool on the 2nd of March. Forest first-team coach Stephen Reid has been handed a 2-match touchline suspension and £5,000 fine. Now, the match ended in chaos, with Forest's coaching team angered by the ref's decision in the game. In rugby, Springbok tight head prop Vincent Koch says that it was a different feeling for the Sharks players to start the week as winners as they build up to the Edinburgh game. The Sharks recorded their first ever United Rugby Championship with a bonus point 22-12 win over Ulster in front of 16,000 supporters in Durban.
Of course, getting a win definitely brings a different vibe into the group, and especially on Monday, it was a nice feeling sitting in a team meeting, and there was, of course, a few things we had to fix, but it was a different vibe in the coach or in the team meeting. But yeah, I think we set out a few goals for the next few weeks and for the rest of the season, and we ticked the first box against Ulster last weekend.
Then anything's off with tennis. Three-time Miami Opener winner Victoria Azarenka battled for nearly 3 hours to beat Julia Putintseva 7-6, 1-6 and 6-3 to take or to book her place in the semi-finals. Fourth-seeded Elena Rybakina held off a strong challenge from 8th-seed Maria Sakkari of Greece before emerging with a 7-5, 6-7 and a 6-4 win. On that note, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in at the next hour for SAFM Sport. I'm Domin Khapele.
In a world where voices are often silenced, democracy stands as a beacon of hope. For decades, we've upheld the values of freedom, equality, and justice. From the streets to the ballot box, every voice matters. As we honor the legacy of democracy, let's remember that it's not just a system, it's a promise of empowerment.
Tribute to democracy, celebrating our shared legacy.
Join us as we celebrate 30 years of our shared legacy of democracy on SABC. Together, we shape the future. SABC, everywhere, for everyone, always.
Gautrain is for the legends who make moves to save and pay from as little as 35 Rand from Hatfield to Centurion. It's for Ikoko, who steady chill on neutral on a downhill just to save fuel. So when it comes to travel, make moves that save and pay from as little as 35 Rand from Hatfield to Centurion Station. Gautrain, for people on the move.
Blue and Gold Army are happy with their performance in the DStv Premiership, and they want to triumph against Gold and Black to stay in the top 5. However, Amakosi want to bring back Injabulo to the Kosi Nation. The Citizens battles it out with the Glamour Boys. Catch Mzansi's beautiful game, Cape Town City versus Kaizer Chiefs, on Saturday 30 March at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Think bigger than just a banking partner. Think a team of specialized experts supporting you to make better financial decisions to enable your growth aspirations. Think a strategic partnership, providing indispensable advice to help you make the right moves. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. For more information, visit nedbank.co.za. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
When TP Mazembe and Petro de Luanda collide, the vibration will shake the city of Lubumbashi in the DRC and the capital city of Angola. This is the first leg quarter-final contest of the CAF Champions League. Witness Africa's beautiful game, TP Mazembe FC versus Petro de Luanda FC on Saturday 30 March at 3 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
The only talk radio afternoon drive show that makes sense. Beyond the Headline with Aldrin Sampear, right here on SAFM.
It is 20 minutes now before 4 o'clock. Good afternoon once again, and thank you so much for choosing Beyond the Headline with me, Aldrin Sampear. We're with you from now up until 6 o'clock. So earlier on, we heard the announcement from the Reserve Bank Governor that the MPC has decided to leave the repo rate unchanged at 8.25%. We'll be speaking to Dr. Jamin, who is a Director and Chief Economist at Econometrics, about what his takeaways are from the announcement that has been made. I guess also, once again, as I said earlier on, many economists and analysts predicted that we could see the repo rate remaining unchanged, also considering that the Feds in the US have also kept their interest rates unchanged. And then at 10 to 4, we speak to Fanele Mhlongwa, SABC News reporter, on the ANC versus MK trademark dispute that is currently underway in KwaZulu-Natal. So we'll be speaking to Fanele Mhlongwa, SABC News reporter, about that. And then also on the show this afternoon, remember, I think it was sometime last week that we reported on a story that was carried in The Citizen about Mujalifa Nale, who is the CEO of the Northwest Development Agency. And the allegations were that he didn't have a grade 10, didn't have a grade 12, and he therefore is not qualified for the position that he's currently holding. And also the questions have been brought into what questions have been raised around the qualifications that he has cited that he got from a university in the UK. We will be speaking to him at 4:20. He'll be joining us at 4:20 around this particular dispute. Remember, one of the members of the provincial legislature in the Northwest, Mr. Dwaile, actually opened a case against the MEC for economic development in the Northwest because of these allegations. So we will be speaking to him at 4:20. And then at 3:50, we speak to Ms. Ngazelo Ncube Mlilo, who's Executive Director for Psychosocial and Mental Health Organization, POLA, and a developer of outrage methodology, looking at what this outrage concept is that targets boys and aim to ensure that they become agents of change. So that conversation is going to come up between or just before 5 o'clock. And we also hope to speak to Shoki Shabalala, the DG for Social Transformation and Economic Empowerment at the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, on the outcomes of the 2-day policy dialogue on the prevention of gender-based violence and femicide. At 5:10, do you own a Birkin bag? Do you own the sought-after Hermes Birkin bag? Do you have one of those? So, there are 2 women in the US that have filed a lawsuit against Hermes International because of its business practices. They argue that they are in violation of the antitrust laws of the United States. So we'll be speaking to Karen Kitchen, who's a trademark attorney from Breed & Camp IP Attorneys, to speak about this, and also what is it about this bag? What is it about this bag? You know, one of the most expensive bags from Hermes went for 10 million, close to 10 million rand. 10 million rand. Would you pay 10 million rand for a bag? 0614-104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. And our studio line is 086-000-2032.
You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
Let's take your voice notes on 0614-104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. And our studio line is 086-000-2032.
A very good afternoon, Aldrin. Let me take this opportunity to congratulate the MPC for ensuring that the repo rate is still unchanged. So the Governor General and the team has been steadfast in making sure that as taxpayers and consumers, which is feeling the pain of the inflation that is currently taking place, we appreciate that one. Secondly, I think it was exacerbated by the situation that is currently taking place in US. So as consumers, we are finding a relief so far. But the last one, we have got a challenge of drought, especially in the Eastern Cape, which women and youth are the hardest hit by the unemployment. So there is a high, indeed, inflation, which is still a concern.
Yeah, and expectations that this the impact of the El Nino could lead to food price increases, and also there's a prediction that we could see maize meal prices increase by 10%. But let's speak to Dr. Azar Jamin, who is a director and chief economist at Econometrics. So post the MPC announcement analysis, the Reserve Bank Monetary Policy Committee has decided to keep the repurchase rate at its current level of 8.25%. Dr. Jamin now joining us on the line. Dr. Jamin, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. Also, the point that is raised by the Reserve Bank governor is that unfortunately the rand is much weaker than what they had anticipated during the previous or predicted during the previous MPC meeting. What are some of your takeaways from the announcement?
I think the announcement was very much as expected. The principal takeaway is that the Reserve Bank is cautious, in line with other central banks of the world, and is feeling that inflation is a little more sticky in coming down than people had hoped some months ago. And on top of that, we've got the additional factor of possible increases in maize and sunflower prices as a result of severe drought conditions, which might keep inflation a little more elevated through the coming year and a half than previously anticipated. And as a consequence, the Reserve Bank was unlikely to cut interest rates at this stage. What has been interesting is to look at the quarterly projection model of the Reserve Bank itself and to see how the forecast for the repo rate by the end of this year has been shifted upwards slightly to project the likelihood of no more than 2 interest rate cuts of 0.25%, as opposed to 3 interest rate cuts of 0.25% previously. That's a marginal shift, and it also means that by the end of 2025, if you extrapolate their forecasts, we might see the repo rate at no more than 1% below current levels, rather than anything more than that.
And looking at the economy and how the economy has performed worse again, as he says, than expected in the fourth quarter of last year, expanding just 0.1%. But here's the other thing about it, is the issue around electricity, not necessarily just load shedding. And a lot of the times when there is the MPC meeting, the outcomes of the MPC meeting, the Reserve Bank governor would speak about the administrative prices and how we need control around that. And we know that from the 1st of April, we will see an increase in electricity prices. What impact do you think that will have on, one, the cost of living, but also this question and conversation about inflation?
There's no question that the key amongst the higher administered prices that he refers to is the price of electricity charged by Eskom. Obviously, it varies down the line as it's passed through by municipalities, each with their own hike. But what is interesting is that there has been absolutely no change in the forecast electricity price inflation rate for the next 3 years in this latest announcement. So, they haven't taken a specific view on being either more bearish or more bullish about the extent to which electricity tariff hikes might come down. I made a note 11.7% for 2023, 13.5% for 2024, 10.9% for 2025, and 8.9% for 2026. Those are all unchanged compared with the previous MPC forecast. So that is not playing a major role in their decision, in any shift in their decision on interest rates. But yes, it is a very hard on consumers and on businesses. That is one of the very big administered price increases that is hurting us.
Finally, the response to the question that I asked about the grey listing, and the Reserve Bank governor had said that he is optimistic that we will be removed by 2025, but now shifted the question to one of the other MPC members to answer that question, because, as he says, she's more optimistic than he is. Where do you stand, Dr. Jamin? Do you think that it is possible for us to meet all of those actions that have been outlined before 2025, when there is that meeting in January?
I think that it is possible. Whether it will materialize, I don't know. And the key here is whether the Financial Asset Task Force sees South Africa as taking more concrete action to prosecute people who have been found guilty of financial malfeasance. One of the main reasons why we've been lifted to grey listing is not that we're not doing enough from a legal perspective, but we are just finding people guilty of or suggesting people are guilty of financial misdemeanors, and yet no one's actually ending up in jail as a consequence. So we have to actually watch what happens over the next 15 months to see whether there's an increase in the level at which the prosecuting authorities are seen to actually be bringing people to book and putting them in jail or not. And that's the key to the answer of whether we'll be lifted from grey listing or not.
Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Azar Jamin, who is the Director and Chief Economist at Econometrics. And the MPC member that I was referring to there is Fundi Chazibani. It is 9 minutes now before 4 o'clock.
When South Africans think security, they think Trilidor. With 6 months interest-free financing and over 54 franchises around the country, you can always find the security product and price that's right for you. Visit trilidor.co.za or call 0861 Trilidor today. Trilidor, the ultimate crime barrier.
Yanga have a massive mission to dish out orders in Dar es Salaam against 2016 champions. However, Masandawana believe in their ability to succeed anywhere on African soil. This is the first leg quarter-final encounter of the CAF Champions League. Witness Africa's beautiful game. Young Africans versus Mamelodi Sundowns on Saturday 30 March at 8 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. # We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Attention filmmakers, are you ready? It's time to showcase the vibrant tapestry of KwaZulu-Natal's cultural heritage at the Simon Mabunu Sabela KZN Film and Television Awards, South Africa's ultimate celebration of cinematic excellence. In partnership with the SABC and KZN EDTEA, we champion innovation, paving the way for the future of cinema. This year we go beyond imagination. Cut, edit your 1-minute submissions because call for entries is now open until the 28th of March 2024. For more information, visit www.kznfilm.co.za or follow us on our social media platforms. Join the conversation using the hashtag SSA24. KZN Film, our kingdom is your stage.
Beyond the Headline with Aldrin Sampear on SAFM. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So let's take your voice notes on 0614-104107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. When we come back, we'll look at the case between the ANC as well as the MK party that is being heard at the High Court in Durban.
Afternoon again, Aldrin. I think as consumers, we were expecting that the repo rate will not change. But around August, July or August, we are expecting the interest rates to be cut, as the elections outcome will also determine the policy direction of this country. So we are just crossing the fingers. We are struggling to make ends meet. It's one day Lenceba, Bolotwa Village, Dujwa.
Aldrin, I cannot believe what I just heard, that you are leaving. And unfortunately, my new job has caused me to miss a lot of the show. I know you deserve better than SAFM. I know you deserve better than Africa. I know I should be seeing you on CNN. But it just means I paid my TV license for nothing because it was Sakina, then they took her away, and now you are leaving. Why did I pay my TV license?
No,
Prince.
and Josie. Sakina is still on Morning Live. Sakina is still doing the afternoon update show. So she's still on SAFM. She's still on the radio. So don't give up on the public broadcaster.
Good afternoon, Aldrin. Good afternoon, my brother. Vincent Rismati here in Brekpan. Oh, man. Sad to know that you are leaving, you know. And I'm so addicted to this show because of you. But I know you're a wise man, and that whatever reasons make you to leave, I know they are good ones. But I'm telling you, things will not be the same without you. So
Thank you.
I wish you well wherever you are going.
Appreciate
I
it.
hope you're not lost to radio for good. But it's a sad day, I must say, that you're leaving.
Yeah.
Anyway, bon voyage. Go well, brother. Vincent here in Springs.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've taken the decision to leave radio in its entirety, so I won't be doing any radio. My focus is just going to be on TV news, and it's also going to be on going back to school.
Going beyond the headline with Aldrin Sampear.
Let's go to JCK, joining us from Musina. Good afternoon.
Hi, afternoon. Are you well, Aldrin?
I'm good, JCK. How are you doing?
I'm not doing good, man, since those bad news. You know, when you are used to somebody, you are used to somebody. And then if you part ways, we are going to hit, but it will take time. You know, if I think of pendulum pose or what time is it? What time is it? 10:04. You know, those things, man. You know, those things, you know, Aldrin, I don't know. And this thing, when I already, you no more coming to radio, not only life is only on SAFM. Everywhere there is life.
Yeah.
But you can join another radio station, man. We want you, man. You know.
I need to challenge myself, JCK. I need to find new things to take on, and also to sharpen the skill a bit, get a bit more refined.
Okay, then you are welcome. You are welcome, and you are excused to do that.
Thank you.
And sefer your mind. There is mensen wat lief vir jou. We love you.
Ek dink sy kan jou hoor. Dankie.
Yeah, and then my second part is this thing at in transit, Aldrin. You know, what stops the government from implementing the state of emergency as a crime? What stops them, if I may ask? Crime has become, has risen dismally. Cash in transit, they take the money as they wish, and they don't even run. And the crime is, this cash in transit has become a way of life. What is the government doing? But probably, government, man. But government must just wake up and do the right thing. In the Constitution, the Constitution is telling us about the safety and the security of the nation or the citizen. But government is failing to protect us. Crime every day. Even there in your studio, they can come and do anything that they want. But government is aware of that. Are they failing to plan, or are they planning to fail? That is my question. Let me rest my case for now, but I wish to talk to you. Maybe on Friday. Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you so much, JCK. Have a beautiful day. Let's go to Kirk, who's joining us from Cape Town. Good afternoon.
Aldrin.
Yes.
I'm purposely mispronouncing your name, Aldrin, because I will not have the pleasure of laughing on my drive every day to people butchering your name.
Yeah.
But listen, I know that you're going to be inundated with calls for the next few days. I want to wish you well. I'm disappointed to hear that you'll be leaving. But when I saw your picture in the newspaper or on IOL this morning, I said, well, he has a face for TV. I thought you had a face for radio. But I saw the picture, you have a face for TV, so I will be watching my TV screen shortly to see if you make an appearance there.
Thank you so much, Kirk. Hopefully one day we get to laugh again.
Yes, we must laugh. All that keeps us sane in South Africa is laughter. We have so much to laugh at and cry about. We'll focus on the laughing. Aldrin, I want to ask you why it is that you have not announced where you are going to. I don't know where I'll be able to follow you to find out where you have gone.
Yeah, I just feel that it's a bit inappropriate to use another platform to say where you're going to, but I'm not going to radio, so I'm leaving radio entirely. But I am on TV.
I'll tell you that you have lit up my life since I started listening to SAFM, since you've been on SAFM. Thank you for all that you've done for us, the listeners, for South Africa as a whole. Your knowledge, your humor, your interactions with the public every day, with the listeners, has really been great. I will miss you, but I wish you well in your new venture. and I will be watching this space.
Thank you so much. Kirk there from Cape Town. Appreciate the support and appreciate that you choose us every afternoon as well. It's a minute after 4 o'clock, time for the news.
Thank you, Aldrin. In your top stories, the central bank leaves repo rate unchanged and more revelations in the AKA Meda case. This is SAFM News. A very good afternoon. I am Luyanda Maume. The South African Reserve Bank has kept the repurchase rate at 8.25% for the fifth consecutive Monetary Policy Committee meeting today. In announcing the committee's decision, Central Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago said that the decision was unanimous and took into consideration the weakened currency and investor-perceived near-term domestic uncertainty.
The rand has been trading somewhat weaker than we expected at our last MPC meeting. It's partly due to interest rates in the major advanced economies staying high for longer. The currency is also under pressure from weakening terms of trade. Furthermore, investors see significant near-term domestic uncertainty. The various risks to the inflation forecast are skewed to the upside. Against this backdrop, the MPC decided to hold the repo rate unchanged at 8.25%. The decision was unanimous.
In some election-related news now, 6 ANC councillors in the Mzumbe municipality on the KwaZulu-Natal South Coast have resigned from the party and their council seats. They were suspended by the party last year when they defied the ANC and voted with the opposition to remove an ANC mayor. The 6 councillors have also announced they will be joining the Umkhonto weSizwe party. This comes as campaigning continues across the country ahead of the May 29th general elections. Former Speaker Sibonelo Maphumulo says the councillors were not satisfied with how the ANC was dealing with corruption in the municipality.
One of the most reasons there is no stability within the party. Now the party have made the environment not to be conducive for the councillors to be able to perform their duties. So one of them, we're just fighting for corruption, that's it. So we are up against the corruption. There is corruption up to the core in that Umzumbe municipality. Now when you tend to question such things, then you become an enemy from the party that we were from the ANC.
The Durban Magistrates Court has heard in the murder case of rapper Keenan aka Forbes how one of the accused, Lindokuhle Ndimande, acted as a spotter for the shooters while the musician and his entourage dined in the Durban restaurant last year. Forbes and his friend Tebello Tips Mutswane were gunned down by 2 men just after they left the restaurant. The bail applications of Ndimande and his 4 co-accused are being opposed by the state. State Prosecutor Advocate Lawrence Caba read from Investigating Officer Detective Bob Pilay's statement.
He chose a spot where AKA and those in his company were in his sight. This is indicated on CCTV footage where he had to change seats while inside the restaurant. He is also seen busy on his cellular phone while eating and looking at the direction of AKA and those in his company. During the shooting outside the restaurant, other people ran away while others went outside to look. He remained inside and not shaken like others were.
Students from educational institutions in Johannesburg say they feel that their future has been put in jeopardy after their colleges have been deregistered by the Department of Higher Education. Tamerlane, City Varsity, Isesa City Campus and Lyceum College have been deregistered for gross non-compliance, including failing to submit annual financial statements, poor curriculum performance and corruption allegations. This has resulted in 10 campuses and over 13,000 students being affected. And finally, France and Brazil have announced an investment program worth $1.1 billion aimed at protecting the Amazon rainforest. The plan was unveiled by the visiting French President Emmanuel Macron alongside his Brazilian counterpart, Lula da Silva. Macron says he's delighted.
I am pleased today that with President Lula,
there's a federal government that's turned the protection of the Amazon, the development of the bioeconomy, and the future of indigenous peoples into a cause that's not simply a cause of resistance, where you have to rely on the rest of the world, but a cause that's well supported by the federal government itself.
Recapping your top story, the South African Reserve Bank has kept the repurchase rate at 8.25% for the fifth consecutive Monetary Policy Committee today. For SAFM News, I am Luyanda Maume. Headlines at 4:30.
Coming up in your sports this hour, Junior Box to open Under-20 Rugby Championship against New Zealand, and Monjani secures yet another sponsorship deal. I'll have more on this and other sports stories at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 westbound has ramp closure with no access to the N1 south at Diepkloof interchange. Main Reef Road is slow moving through City West area. Congestion reported in Pretoria, which is slow moving in the Marabastad area, and Conrad Drive in Craighall has water repair works near Hillcrest Avenue, so expect delays particularly at peak times. In KZN, the N3 eastbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The N3 westbound towards the ramp to the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction is slow moving as well. The M7 eastbound queuing towards Bel Air Road. The N3 eastbound is queuing at Marion Hill Plaza. The N3 southbound has a stationary vehicle at Ashburton. In Cape Town, the M5 northbound is slow moving towards Kuburg interchange. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend. And the N7 Jacks Halville Drive southbound is slow moving towards Voortrekker Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
And we will buy 500 cars and we will buy 500 more. Just to be the one who buys your car, will come to you and offer more. We buy cars, we buy cars. We buy cars, we buy cars.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
ES Tunis plan to disallow their visitors any breathing moment, but ASEC Mimosas remain extremely hungry for maximum points on the road. The North takes on the West. This is the first leg quarter-final battle of the CAF Champions League. Witness Africa's beautiful game. ES Tunis versus ASEC Mimosas on Saturday 30 March at 11 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Coming up on the book reading, Why Men Had Women.
I know that there are thousands of boys and men who are raped in prison and around us who live with the shame but will not admit it. They would rather remain silent than let it be known that they are also victims of sexual violence. In any case, who will they open up to when there are so few spaces and opportunities to speak of their ordeal? And thus there are many who carry around this wounding that may lead to them wounding others.
Catch the book reading on SFM Monday to Thursday at 11:45 on The Talking Point.
Remember to tune in tomorrow when I'll be announcing the name of the winner in the Outsurance Easter competition. Even if you've missed the deadline for entries, Outsurance could still help you uncover possible savings on your car insurance. If they can't beat your current premium, ask for 500 Rand. Claim free and with the same insurer for more than 3 years. Ask for 1,500 Rand. SMS out to 30754 or for a quote that's out to 30754, licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
10 past 4. 10 past 4.
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
How's it, Aldrin? Siviwe in East London. Big fan of your show. Really sad you're leaving. Yes, but I feel sorry for the person who's gonna take over this slot. Because they're gonna have to win us over, as fans of Aldrin. or Aldrin Sampear. Gee whiz, yeah, it's massive big shoes to fill. But yeah, all the best to you. I know with your brains and just seen on the internet your looks. Yeah, you should do well wherever you go. Yeah, great, amazing time that on my afternoon going home drive. Yeah, excellent, witty shows. Enjoyed every day. Savage in East London.
Thank you so much. A very, very capable person is taking over from me. No stranger to the SAFM family as well. Ashraf Garda is coming back, so he'll be taking over this slot between 3 and 6 o'clock. I think he starts on the 2nd? Let me just quickly see. Yeah, he's starting on the 2nd of April. So from the 2nd of April, the name of the show is going to change as well. I'll try and see if I can get the name of the new show, what the new show will be called. But Ashraf Garda will be taking place. Very, very capable. And of course, as I said, no stranger to the SAFM family.
Yo, Adrian. I just tuned in now and I heard that you're leaving the station. I almost ran my vehicle, off the road in a bergpas. Nee, my broer. Ek weet nie wat gaat aan nie, hoor. Yo, jy moet ons net sê, wat's 'n TV channel waar ons wil jou daar kyk, asseblief Aldrin, hoor. Dis Colin wat hier praat, my vriend. Baie sterkte vir jou en baie dankie vir die jare se genot wat jy ons gegee het as Suid-Afrikaners. Just remember, my brother, you'll remain the national treasure, né? You'll remain the national treasure of radio in our country. Yeah. Thank you, Aldrin.
Ek waardeer dit baie. As jy miskien op my dinge is op my toe te gaan, sal ek daar vir jou sê waar toe ek gaan. Of miskien kan jy Google, just Google Aldrin Sampear, where to, and maybe you'll get an answer there. 0614-104-107, and you can also drop an X at Aldrin Sampear.
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
It's 13 minutes after 4 o'clock. We're in conversation next with Dipenene Serage, who is the DDG for Biosecurity Management at the Department of Agriculture and Land Reform and Rural Development. The department has made some progress on the containment of the foot and mouth disease outbreak that first started in 2021. Parts of KwaZulu-Natal and the Free State still have unresolved outbreaks where quarantine perimeters remain in place for animals. 7 provinces have been declared foot and mouth disease free by the World Organization for Animal Health. To help us unpack this further, we're in conversation with the DDG for Biosecurity. DDG, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. Before we get into the update around the containment, just a quick reminder again about what is foot and mouth disease.
Good afternoon to you, Aldrin, and good afternoon to your listeners. This is a virus-caused disease of cloven-hoofed animals that have got hooves like cattle, pigs, goat, and sheep. So it's a virus disease that affects this group of animals, and it's caused by a virus. And that's how simplified one can refer to it as.
And any risks to human beings?
No, not risky to human beings. No.
Okay. Now let's speak about the containment of the disease, and considering that you still have some provinces, the KwaZulu-Natal as well as the Free State, that still has some cases. What are we looking at currently?
We do have what you call protection zones. This is the areas that are surrounding the Kruger National Park and areas that are surrounding your Tutu-Umbolozi in the KZN. These are the areas that you ordinarily and naturally you would have foot and mouth disease. So when we have foot and mouth disease in those areas, we're not alarmed because we know it's not in most cases the same virus that is circulating, and we're not alarmed because those areas that are in close proximity with the game farms where there are buffaloes, you would naturally have this. So when we've got foot and mouth disease in those areas, we're not really worried, and all we do is to contain it within that area and ensure that it does not escape to other areas which we call free zones. So if you would have seen in our media release, we say we worried about, and we are also actually happy with the progress that is made in controlling the foot and mouth disease that was in areas that is not supposed to happen. So the provinces that, for instance, if you look at the Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, Western Cape, these are areas that we're not supposed to have FMD disease, and we did not have. And areas, part of KZN and part of Limpopo, part of Northwest, in fact, Limpopo, KZN, let me start with Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and KZN. Those areas that we normally would have FMD disease, we had. And the parts on those areas that we should not have had, we had. Hence, we spoke of outbreak. So we had the disease spilling over, going into areas that you're not supposed to have. And when we say we've been able to contain and control the disease, we mean we've been able to control it from happening and eradicating it, if you like, in those areas.
So what would it take to eradicate it in KwaZulu-Natal as well as the Free State?
It's a difficult. Free State is fine. Free State, we're going to eradicate it. Let me explain why. Free State, because it does not border any major big game parks that would house FMD positive buffaloes. So Free State is one of we're working around it, and we shouldn't have actually, now that you mentioned. So we're going to make sure that we clean, let me use the simplified English, clean the disease. But it's basically, we're going to control it, make sure, one, the first step is to vaccinate the animals. We vaccinate them so that it does not, those that are positive do not spread. So even if they come into contact with others that are negative, it will not spread from those that are positive. So once they are vaccinated, work. Secondly, we're going to ensure that those will go through the normal value chain. So by the way, animals that are infected with foot and mouth disease, they can be slaughtered. Your earlier question whether the disease can go spill over or infect human beings, no, they don't have wolves, so it would not. And there's what we call a zoonotic disease. Zoonotic disease is the disease that can be transmitted from humans to animals and vice versa. So FMD disease is not one of those, luckily. So the animals that are infected can easily be slaughtered. Of course, there's with due care. There are parts of the carcass that may not be consumed for just being safe, being very careful and being safe, making sure that we are safe. So that process, when the animals go through the process of what animals are farmed for, which is for their meat, the process goes through, and then those animals, once they are slaughtered, obviously you then would not have diseases happening in the Free State in this specific case.
Would, for instance, in KwaZulu-Natal, would it mean also that there would have to be some culling that happens?
Oh, yes, I forgot to mention. KwaZulu-Natal, parts of Mpumalanga, parts of KZN and Limpopo, because the areas, the parts, those areas, the protectors, those areas that would have that share the border or they're in close proximity with the Kruger National Park or with the Krusu Impolozi, culling the animals will not assist. Because the animals will still share water and everything else if the areas that are close to those parks. So culling them, yes, it's the best option because you are reducing the number of the virus that is circulating. That's good, but you still have them as long as you still have buffaloes in the game park that are positive, and it so happens that buffaloes themselves do not show symptoms. So that's another challenge. So buffaloes don't get sick, in other words. So the buffaloes will not be sick, but they are still carriers of the virus, so they spill the virus over, and cattle, sheep, goats will pick it up, and they don't show symptoms. And because obviously there's not much buffalo meat that is being consumed, and if buffaloes are slaughtered, the first thing we check amongst the diseases that we check, it will be for that. But in most cases, that does not happen. So KZN, it's what we're doing in those areas, KZN, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, we're making sure that the areas that are within the close proximity to the park do not have animals traveling outside to other areas. So they need to keep the animals in that area. And then we vaccinate those animals so that they don't spread the virus. But we are also coming up with mechanisms of having abattoirs so that those animals can be slaughtered within those areas where FMD is prevalent. And in that case, when you slaughter them within that area, of course, under strict veterinary services supervision to ensure that parts that may pose danger are removed first, and then the meat, it's a normal meat that gets consumed. So you need to keep it there in those areas.
Dipenene, thank you so much for your time. Just a quick one, out of curiosity. What does your name mean?
In fact, I was about to say you are butchering my name.
Okay.
My name is Dipepenene.
Sorry?
It's Dipepenene, not Dipenene. Dipepenene.
Dipepe
Nene.
Nenini. Okay, so this
No. Dipepenene. It's like in Sotho or Spedi. When you say Dipepenene, you're saying everything is obvious. It's on the, even if you Google it, it will show you. Dipepenene means it's obvious.
Oh, it is obvious. Okay, thank you so much, and thank you so much for the correction as well. Appreciate it. Dipepe Neneng is the DDG for Biosecurity Management at the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development.
Buying a new TV? You'll need a paid-up TV license. Need to check your balance? No sweat at all. You just SMS your ID or TV license account number to 44210 for fast, effective balance inquiries. Secure your legal viewing fast and simple. Standard SMS rates will be charged. Terms and conditions apply. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
Fly better to your next holiday. Book your flights with Emirates to a holiday in Dubai, London, Istanbul, or Paris. Look forward to delicious regionally inspired cuisine, enjoy free-flowing premium drinks, and relax to your favorite movies on the way. Because it's not just about the destination, it's how you get there. This year, fly Emirates. Fly better.
Yanga have a massive mission to dish out orders in Dar es Salaam against 2016 champions. However, Masandawana believe in their ability to succeed anywhere on African soil. This is the first leg quarter-final encounter of the CAF Champions League. Witness Africa's beautiful game. Young Africans versus Mamelodi Sundowns on Saturday 30 March at 8 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Going beyond the headline with Aldrin Sampear.
0614-104107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Yo, good afternoon, Captain, to me and the listeners. Yo, I was not ready for this announcement. Like, I'm heartbroken by this. You leaving us, you leaving the show, you leaving SAFM. Hello. Yo. Well, good luck with anything that you're gonna do in future, Captain. Matume in Pumalanga. Thank you. Include hour 4:10.
Hi, Aldrin. Good afternoon. You know, yesterday when I was listening to your program, when you're announcing that you're departing from the station, I became so sad, you know, because you made me fall in love with your talk show. I made sure that I don't miss any of your shows. But after all, people do grow. It is your right to move on and explore the world, my boy. Good luck. We will miss you. Steven Subuke.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I would like to make a humble request to the listeners. If there's anyone out there who can afford to buy, those airplanes that you can use to decorate your office. If there's any listener out there who can afford to buy one and send it to the SAFM offices so that the captain will have it when he leaves us on Friday. I think it will be a nice way to say goodbye to the captain. I could do it myself, but the level of unemployment in this country is very, very high. So if there's anyone out there who can afford to buy, those little airplanes, please buy it and send it to the SAFM offices. That's my humble request. Thank you very, very much.
Beyond the Headline with Aldrin Sampear on SAFM. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
0614104107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086 0002032. So we're in conversation next with Mujalifa Nali, CEO of the Northwest Development Agency. So earlier this month, revelations emerged that the Northwest Economic Development MEC, Virginia Tlhapi, hired 2 senior officials with questionable qualifications to lead the Northwest Development Corporation. Now, following the story, one senior official who has been accused of falsifying their credentials has come forward to share their side of the story and dispel what has been published in the media. Please note that we ran a verification check with his qualifications at the University of Bradford and received a letter that confirms his postgraduate degree, and he now joins us on the line. Joins us in the studio, actually. Thank you so much, Mujalifa, for coming through.
No, thank you very much, Aldrin, and good afternoon to listeners of SAFM.
Yeah. So, member of the provincial legislature, Muloko Jwaile, opened a case against the MEC and said that the MEC had unlawfully appointed you, as well as, I guess now, the former CFO of the Development Corporation. Your response to the allegations that have been made, including that you do not have a grade 10 and you do not have a grade 12.
Okay, thank you so much, Aldrin. Let me start by saying, in all applications I have made for all the jobs I've done in government and elsewhere, I have never hidden the fact that I was not able to complete my grade 12 because I went to exile at an early age. And on my return, I started working for the ANC and pursued everything else that the ANC wanted me to do. And I only started my formal education at a later stage. So that is very clear. I've expressed it everywhere. And I just want to also say, Aldrin, I must not be understood to be saying matric is not important in this country.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the debate are pedantic. They are important. But coming to the qualifications, as you have said, I did my studies. I did my certificate in law with UNISA. I went to Bradford. We were a group of 10 that went abroad, sent by the government of the Northwest. 5 of the 10 went to Liverpool. Another 5 went to Bradford. And I chose economics, as other group members went for project management master's level, and I think there was one person that also did an MA there. So I've done development economics year 1, and then from there I went straight into the master's, which I completed. It is a full-time course, classwork, assignments, examination at semester level, and I completed my examination at the end of the master's, which was a final examination, and I did my dissertation. Now, allegations of Mr. Jwaile is that I did not do all of these things. And he's also questioning how can one person complete such an important course in such a short space of time. Well, that I cannot debate because I am not an accredited exponent of pedagogy. I don't know how that happens. What should be the debate in South Africa? You finish it in such a period in methods that are conducted for education. I'm not an accredited exponent in that regard. So all I know is that I'm very qualified. I have the experience of doing the job. That's all what I can say.
Okay, we just need to quickly go to the news headlines now. Let's come back and then continue the conversation and also the issues that have been raised by Mr. Jwaile. Once again, I don't know if the police have contacted. Do you know whether the police have contacted the MEC? Has the police contacted you by any chance?
Not yet. They have not contacted me. I made attempts to contact them.
Yeah.
To say I am waiting. And their view was that I should simply wait out there. the investigating officer will contact me and when they are ready.
So there's confirmation that there is an investigation?
No, there is an investigation. Okay. There is a case number available, and they have confirmed that there is a case.
Okay, we continue the conversation just after the market update with Marco Masilela, just to conclude the conversation and also the allegations that have been made. 0614-104-107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Thank you, Aldrin. In your headlines, the cost of borrowing for consumers and businesses will remain the same after the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee kept the repo rate unchanged at 8.25%. The South African Reserve Bank Governor, Lisetja Kganyago, says the decision comes on the back of a gradual acceleration in consumer inflation. The Eastern Cape Liquor Board has cautioned learners against illegal and excessive use of liquor in the upcoming Easter weekend. This follows a tip-off from some of its learner ambassadors about a poster that is circulating on various social media platforms inviting learners from the Buffalo City to attend a pool party in a B&B in East London. And China's President Xi Jinping has met U.S. business leaders in Beijing's Great Hall of the People in an apparent attempt to woo back foreign firms to boost China's economy. Details on these and other stories at 5 with Mudupi Makhalimele for SAFM News. My name is Luyanda Maume and I'm out.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Alexandra has a stationary vehicle before London Road. The N3 northbound in Bedfordview has a stationary vehicle on the ramp to the N12 east at Gululis Interchange. The N1 N12 southbound has a crash reported at Diepkloof Interchange. Main Reef Road is slow moving through that Setu West area. In Pretoria, Madiba Street eastbound is closed opposite Swane House, and congestion with slow moving traffic reported in that Marabastad area. In KZN, the N3 eastbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The N3 westbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The M7 eastbound is queuing towards Bel Air Road. The M7 is queuing at South Coast Road. The N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle before Spaghetti Junction, and the N3 southbound has a stationary vehicle at Ashburton reported. The N1 outbound in Cape Town is slow moving towards Kuburg Interchange. The M5 southbound is slow moving towards Kromboom Road. Bakencrest Street outbound in the CBD is queuing towards the elevated freeway. Okavango Road in Brackenfell is slow moving. That's at the N1 highway. And Turfel Road in Hanover Park has a crime scene reported at Belgravia Road that's causing some heavy traffic in the area, so expect delays and diversions. And on Atlantic Road there's a crash reported in that central Muizenberg area. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Coast Stadium. The Under-20 Rugby Championship will see the upcoming stars of Argentina, Australia, New Zealand and South Africa to do battle in the first of its kind between the 4 Southern Hemisphere nations. The top team after the 3-round 6-match tournament will be declared the first Rugby Championship Under-20 Championship. Then in football, Bafana head coach Hugo Bruce says that he's excited about the future and believes that their 3-3 draw in a thriller against Algeria in an international friendly match at the Nelson Mandela Stadium last night talks to the standard of this team and what can be expected from them. He says that Bafana can now take on any team in Africa.
Yeah, what a game. It was a fantastic game from both teams. But the performance of South Africa was really, really good today. We played against a very strong team, but I don't think there was much difference between the quality of our game and the quality of the game of Algeria. So that means that we make a lot of progression in the last months. We showed it already on AFCON, but I think today we did it again, and I think we don't have to be afraid again anymore of any team in Africa.
Staying with football, Coach Bizo Mosimane says that he's thrilled by the University of Johannesburg's decision to award him with an honorary doctorate this week. Mosimane adds that the recognition is beyond his wildest dreams.
But I never thought an accolade such as an honorary doctorate was within my reach as a football person. I'm thankful to the leadership at the University of Johannesburg for this acknowledgement and recognition.
In cricket, tonight we'll see the top of the log CSA T20 Challenge clash between the Lions and the Warriors at the DP World Wanderers Stadium. The Lions are second position on the log. Ryan Rickleton has been the Lions' star performer with the bat, averaging 41.25 with a strike rate of 147.32, while he has the international class backup in Vian Mulder, Rassie van der Dussen, Themba Bavuma and Risa Hendricks. Kagiso Rabada and Gwena Maphaka are out on the IPL stage. In tennis, with the Paris Paralympic Games just a few months away, South African tennis sensation Kgotatso Montjane received a major boost as she joined forces with multinational corporation Air Liquide. The partnership entails comprehensive assistance in her preparations, provision of equipment and overall support towards realizing her dream of securing her first Paralympic Games medal in her 5th appearance at the Games.
I am really excited about this partnership with Air Liquide because it comes at the right time, and mostly for them just backing me towards Paralympics Paris 2024. I mean, this support, it's going to add more value into what I need, to really reach my full potential, to actually to achieve the hopes of being on the podium, and I'm really grateful for my team at Optimize, to keep going out there and making sure that they get those funds so that we keep filling the gaps that are there in my game, also to just like help me, get back to the top.
That's it from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour for SAFM Sport. I'm Tumin Kapele.
A problem shared is a problem half solved. Don't ignore mental health, emotional wellness, gender-based violence, HIV/AIDS, adherence to chronic medication, the COVID-19 pandemic, and various other challenges. Let us help you and your loved ones. Contact Lifeline South Africa toll-free numbers on your mobile phone, 0800 012 322 or 0800 150 150. Alternatively, WhatsApp 084 922 8808. Lifeline South Africa, mental and emotional health for all. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
The Blues are looking for nothing but victory to cement a decent top half position.
Mudryk takes over. Mudryk's through. Mudryk round the goalkeeper. Oh, it's fantastic.
But the Clarets need full points to step out of the uncomfortable zone.
Come on, Jakob. Jakob Ron Larsen scores. Burnley. Perfect penalty. Keeper went the right way. Too much on it.
This is the Premier League. Witness the superb contest between Chelsea FC and Burnley FC on Saturday 30 March at 4 p.m. live on S3. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. #We love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the
game. #SAFMBTH.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And it's time for Market Update with Makwe Masilela, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, good afternoon. Welcome to the show. Let's look at the pleasing interim results from Momentum Metropolitan and also Old Mutual's annual results.
Afternoon to you, Adrian, and to your listeners. Starting with Old Mutual, Adrian, they delivered a robust operational and financial performance, and that's besides the recent social media scandal or issue. Their customer-focused approach helps them to generate strong new business and continue to sales momentum. The guys delivered sales growth of 17%, and that's across their life segment, and also grew market share profitability within their key markets. Really of new business up 37%, gross flows and rating premiums up 14%, and then their partnership with Two Mountains Group immediately increased their distribution footprint that is across 5 provinces and enabled them to vertically integrate the funeral services value chain into their value proposition. position. Profit is headline earnings per share up 28%, and the guys are launching their bank this year, entering a very competitive space. Remember, they used to own majority stake in Nedbank, that is from 1986 until 2018, that is for 32 years, and Momentum also delivered a robust operating earnings, and they were boosted by the strong improvement in investment income, and that's on the back of higher interest rates, and profits were further positively impacted by a favorable change when it comes to the shape of the yield curve, when it comes to Momentum Retail and Momentum Metropolitan Africa, and improved persistency experience in Metropolitan Life, continued record life annuity sales volumes in Momentum Investment, and strong underwriting experience in Momentum Corporate. Their normalized profit as normalized headline earnings per share continue to benefit from the share buyback and increase by a whopping 48%.
And tell us about local and international market developments.
Other China's combined industrial profit for January and February climbed 10.2% year-on-year, but for the whole of 2023 fell 2.3%, and markets continue to wait for further clues when it comes to interest rate cuts. And for a fifth month in a row, our interest rates were left unchanged at 8.25%, making prime lending rate 11.75%, even with our inflation at 4-month high of 5.6%, moving further away from the 4.5%, where the South African Reserve Bank prefers expectations to be anchored, and then that was the final rate setting meeting before the May general election, and they see inflation returning to 4.5% range later than expected, which can easily be interpreted as we should expect rate cuts later this year, probably in Q4, and adding apparently Patrice Motsepe is in talks with Canal Plus to join them in their multi-billion-dollar bid to buy MultiChoice, and rising U.S. stockpiles, which indicates lack of demand, is putting pressure on oil prices, and there are signs that OPEC Plus is unlikely to change their output policy at their technical meeting next week. We see Brent crude is flat at $85 a barrel, and traders are pricing in a 70% probability that the U.S. will begin cutting rates in June, and that reduces the opportunity cost of holding gold. We see the yellow metal is up 1.6% at $2,191. Platinum is down 0.6% at $897. Silver is down 0.1%. Cake is up 0.5%. DAX just like the Dow up 0.6%. S&P just like the JSE up 0.3%. With our industrials continuing to do the heavy lifting, up 1%. Our financials are up 0.1%, but our resources are down 0.71%, and the rand firmed almost 0.2% against the US dollar, is now trading at 18.90 and 23.86 to the pound and 20.45 to the euro.
Thank you so much. That's Makwe Masilela, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers.
Going beyond the headline with Aldrin Sampear.
0614-104-107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086-000-2032. We continue the conversation with Mujalifa Nalia, who is the CEO of the Northwest Development Agency. Remember, about a week ago, we spoke to one of the members of the provincial legislature in the Northwest, Muloko Jwaile, who had lodged a case or opened a case against the MEC for Economic Development in the Northwest, Virginia Tlhapi, saying that she had unlawfully hired two senior officials with questionable qualifications, and one of them is Mujalifa Nalia, who is joining us in studio. He has refuted this, but as we've indicated as well, that he did share the details of his qualifications with us. We then reached out to the University of Brentford in the UK. They came back to us and verified that indeed he did qualify at the university starting at September 1999 and ended November 2000, and the awarding institution is the University of Brentford. The qualification obtained is a Master of Science and Macro Economic Policy and Planning in Developing Countries. So here's the other issue about this matter as well, is that apparently there was a meeting that was held by your board. Do you know about that meeting that happened mid-March? on the 14th of March, I think?
Well, there's been several meetings of the board. I don't know which one in particular they're referring to.
Okay, this one is in relation to the claims that have been made that your qualifications are questionable, and also that you should be placed on precautionary suspension. In this letter that we got here, it was signed by Kenneth Konobi.
Okay. Aldrin, let me say, if it is the meeting I can remember, I'm not sure the date. They were discussing this matter, and I was requested to recuse myself because I'm conflicted. Mm-hmm. Great pity is that I've never received anything formal from the board to say, here is our resolution about you. As you read it, most probably you're the first person that tells me formally what is the outcome of that meeting. I just heard it in the corridors, but they have never presented anything like that to me.
Yeah, because in this letter, once again, they say, upon perusal of the above-mentioned correspondence received, the board inquired on the personnel file of the candidate. It became apparent that the verification of the candidate's qualification was not done and or finalized by the panel. The board was further advised that the continued appointment of the CEO would further jeopardize the NWDC, which would also incur irregular expenditure based on his appointment. And this letter is addressed to the MEC with the recommendation that you should be placed on precautionary suspension.
Most probably the MEC will be better placed to respond to that. But what I can say is that it's not true that my qualifications were not verified, maybe by them. But on arrival, I presented the recent valuation report from SA Qualifications Authority. I did it, and the reason why I did it, at some point, the SA Qualifications Authority did not allow third parties to inquire about qualifications of people, right? Mm-hmm. So at that point, I did it personally. I did the payment. I did everything. I received the results. I included that in the qualifications. And I don't know because... I remember when I attended the interview, the chairperson of the board was there as part of the interviewing panel. If things weren't done properly at that time, don't you think...
He was part of the panel.
He was part of the panel. Don't you think that he should have stopped the process there and there?
So what does this then tell us about the board? Because you're also a member of the board. If there is these allegations that are made against you from their own observation and their own investigation, they then find that actually due process was not followed. What does that tell you about your relationship with the board?
Well, Aldrin, this tells you everything. It tells you everything because before arriving at that decision, why didn't they have to call me to hear my side of the story? How would they act on the basis of a case that is opened with the police and I'm not charged as yet? Mr. Chwaile went to open the case and gave the board that information that I have opened a case against Mr. Nali. So do you think it is proper that when everybody just opened the case against Aldrin, I must come here and say, Aldrin, get out of the studio. Somebody has opened a case against you. Somebody else opened a case somewhere. There's no charge, there's nothing. They should have called me and say, here are the issues said about. They didn't do so. As I say, formally, I hear for the first time about the fact that the board wanted to suspend me. And I am saying you don't need to read a lot of things or get any information. It tells you that perhaps they have reservations about me.
Yeah.
But they were never expressed. I've never seen them. In meetings I have held with them, at no stage they questioned issues in such a manner that I could sense they have problems with me. Things have been going smooth. Even this afternoon, we were supposed to have the AGM of the board. Now, I don't know where does this thing comes from. So, in other words, they believe Mr. Chwaile one way or the other, without them having conducted their own
So, what's your next step with regards to this?
Which part?
What are you going to do about this? So there's the board letter that I'm speaking about that went to the MEC. There's also this case that Mr. Chwaile has opened against you. What's your next step? Do you just sit back and...
Well, I've started now. I'm clearing my name in the media about my qualifications. Mm-hmm. that I've done. Second thing is that I'm going to wait for the police. If they don't come, I'll come. I'll go to them. That they must proceed with this case so that it is sent to the relevant authorities so that they can decide whether to prosecute or not to prosecute. That must happen, because if they delay, obviously, they're denying me the justice I deserve, right? With the board, I'm not going to do anything. I'll wait for them to tell me.
Okay. This story came just after the CFO, your CFO, now former CFO, Kudakwasha Mpofu, it was revealed that he didn't have he didn't have a proper, he was accused of a fraudulent residential permit, a residence permit that he had obtained. It was fraudulent according to Home Affairs. What do you know about it? Because you were the CEO at the time.
Yeah. As you say, Aldrin, that this whole thing about my suspension, the questioning of qualification, just comes more or less at the same time with this CFO's issue. In actual fact, it's just after. I don't know, it's a strange coincidence, and I've been saying elsewhere as well that the coincidence is very strange. But I can tell you that on my arrival, the MEC, after my appointment, the MEC indicated that the portfolio committee raised issues about the CFO. There were issues that were raised. Mm-hmm. The MEC also said to me, there are issues that have been raised by the portfolio committee about the CFO. So I went ahead to check everything, qualifications, everything that has to do with Mr. Kudakwasha. And then I said, the issue of the permit was quite central as well, because it was mentioned. I personally interacted with him about it. I said to him, there are issues that are raised about you and the permit. Mm-hmm. You can take me into confidence as to what is happening. But in the meantime, as you are thinking, I am going to make inquiries with Home Affairs. That was before the articles. And I can tell you that Home Affairs did formally give me a report, which I was still processing when the matter went on the Sunday newspaper talking about the court. Now that there was a court, it was important for us to look at whether should we continue, because we may interfere with important principles of the law, such as the sub judice principles. So we were consulting the board, the MEC, as to what should happen now. Because here it's a matter, it talks about the fact that the worker permit of the CFO is questionable, it's in dispute, it was not concluded. The Home Affairs did not grant an ID on the basis that the worker permit is fraudulently obtained, right? So at that point, that's when he took leave. When he took leave, there were debates within the board. The board was still discussing this matter. The board was still going to go deeper and investigate what is happening. So he was on leave. Just 7 days later, the minister came out with all these details that we did not know. That is when the CFO resigned, on the very same day that the minister came out. So he resigned. So that is what I know to have transpired. But then there were no issues about my qualification prior to that.
So what are you saying? This is a fight back?
I'm saying it's a strange coincidence.
It's a strange coincidence.
It's a very strange coincidence.
Because here's the thing.
Because the issue of my qualification is not raised for the first time. It was raised around 1999. The Public Service Provincial Commissioner was the one that even went to address, I think it was the Bob TV by then. It was in the public. The commissioner addressed this matter fully. It went quiet.
But the Brentford qualification came in 2000, huh?
No. I completed, remember? Mm-hmm. And then I had my transcripts and everything. The formal certificate came later.
Okay.
I had transcripts.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. I don't know, as you said, you're now going to wait for the police to decide whether you will be charged or not, and then decide on whether, I don't know, the MEC will reach out to you about this letter. So you're just going to leave the suspension, yeah. Are you just going to leave it like that until the MEC reaches out to you?
No. Until somebody says you are suspended. I'm not suspended. I'm at work. I don't have letter of suspension. So somebody must come and say you are suspended.
Okay. Mujali Fanale is the CEO of the Northwest Development Agency. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Aldrin, for the time. Thank you.
Yanga have a massive mission to dish out orders in Dar es Salaam against 2016 champions. However, Masandawana believe in their ability to succeed anywhere on African soil. This is the first leg quarter-final encounter of the CAF Champions League. Witness Africa's beautiful game. Young Africans versus Mamelodi Sundowns on Saturday 30 March at 8 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the
So Sharon officing was telling me the way drip is so expensive these days. She's now waiting for her old clothes to come back into fashion. I say, Choza, while you're waiting, why not let your money do the things in a Nedbank Just Invest account where you can get your money after 24 hours notice? Oganchani, voiceman.
In Jalo, Mabel, you can earn up to 8.75% interest. Anyone can open an investment account via the Money app in under 2 minutes. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. Promo rates apply.
In a world where voices are often silenced, democracy stands as a beacon of hope. For decades, we've upheld the values of freedom, equality, and justice. From the streets to the ballot box, every voice matters. As we honor the legacy of democracy, let's remember that it's not just a system, it's a promise of empowerment.
Tribute to democracy, celebrating our shared legacy.
Join us as we celebrate 30 years of our shared legacy of democracy on SABC. Together, we shape the future. SABC, everywhere, for everyone, always.
Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
So post a 2-day policy dialogue on the prevention of gender-based violence and femicide, we hear from the DDG for Social Transformation and Economic Empowerment at the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities about some of the pertinent issues that were discussed during the gathering and the way forward. Shoki Shabalala is now joining us on the line. DDG, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. So post that 2-day dialogue, what is the way forward?
Okay. First of all, we realized that we need to come up with the report as a standard requirement, but the report that is clear in terms of recommendations on programmatic recommendations or interventions. What is most important was that we need to address the issue of resourcing for civil society organizations. But within the dialogue itself, we were in a position to take them through the various resourcing mechanisms that are in place, how to access those resources, but what governance requirements are expected from those who are accessing the resources or who intend to access the resources. The critical part that was raised was that we need to incorporate some of the recommendations into the 365 days program of action that we've already developed, and also to upscale the involvement of men and boys as agents of change. I think for as long as we can afford to execute the work that we are doing, we cannot afford to do it alone. We need men and boys as partners in the nurturing of the boy child. Lastly, great investment in capacity building of those programs at the ward level. Now that the intention is to take the prevention strategy to a local level, we need to build capacity. We need political will. For us, that is fundamental, so that we build that capacity, starting from those who are leading us politically at a local level, but also making sure that it takes the whole of society to implement the prevention strategy, including family members. We don't leave out anyone. The family plays a critical role within society in making sure that we raise our children correctly, both boys and girls, and there's no discrimination. The whole issue around multi-sectoral approach was emphasized, no one is spared from implementing the National Strategic Plan. Media, you play a critical role, showcasing the good work that is already being done out there, but also affording everyone the space to come and talk about their programs, how to access those programs, and where to access those programs at the end of the day. The last part that was more interesting was that service providers should refrain from treating survivors of gender-based violence as homogeneous group, in particular women. Women are not a homogeneous group. Therefore, going forward, we need a targeted approach. Let's say, for example, women with disabilities, have further engagement with them on how to improve services in respect of women with disabilities. Same applies to older persons, same applies to young women, same applies to women within the LGBTQIA+ sector. So that's the issues that we raised, and we really intend coming up with that report and popularize those recommendations across sectors and monitor those, because if we don't roll out this prevention strategy, if we don't develop a monitoring and evaluation framework, we will not know whether we are making an impact or not within society.
Very important to have that monitoring and evaluation. Thank you so much, DDG. The DDG for Social Transformation and Economic Empowerment at the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disability, Shoki Shabalala. It's a minute after 5 o'clock. Time for the news.
Thank you very much, Aldrin. The top stories this hour: the repo rate to remain unchanged and learners cautioned over illegal use of alcohol. Very good afternoon. The cost of borrowing for consumers and businesses will remain the same after the Reserve Bank kept the repo rate unchanged at 8.25%. This means that the prime lending rate stays at 11.75%. Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago says the decision comes on the back of a gradual acceleration in consumer inflation. He was delivering the bank's decision on rates in Pretoria.
The MPC decided to hold the repo rate unchanged at 8.25%. The decision was unanimous. At this level of raise, the policy stance is considered restrictive, consistent with the inflation outlook and the need to address elevated inflation expectations.
The Eastern Cape Liquor Board has cautioned learners against the illegal and excessive use of liquor in the upcoming Easter weekend. It is illegal to sell liquor to someone younger than 18 in South Africa. This follows a tip-off about a poster that is circulating on social media inviting learners from Buffalo City to attend a pool party at a B&B in East London. The board's Mgwebi Msiya says they will be visiting the B&B to discourage the owner from hosting the learners.
On the poster, potential attendees are advised to bring a bottle of whiskey or gin as an entry requirement. And this clearly demonstrates that the intention is nothing else but to consume alcohol at this party. This is extremely alarming, and learners are urged to refrain from this repugnant behavior.
Frustrated students from Damelin College in Randburg, north of Joburg, say they still haven't received formal communication from management on the institution's future. 4 Educor institutions, including Damelin College, City Varsity, Isisa City Campus and the Lyceum College, were deregistered by the Higher Education Department over issues of gross non-compliance, including failing to submit annual financial statements, poor curriculum performance, and corruption allegations. These students say they are extremely disappointed in Damelin's lack of communication.
It's crazy how this happened in like 3 months, and like every time they never communicate. They haven't said a single word to us, so I don't know. I think just Damelin is cooked. Just know that.
With everything that's going on, the part that really alarmed me the most was the fact that we've been registered here for over a month now, but the head office gives us calls as students and asks us if we're actually interested in coming into the institution. So that lets me know that the communication between the head office and all the other branches isn't actually 100%, which means there's something that the school isn't telling us. Maybe this personal branch is actually eating the money of the students.
The Zebediela Polokwane Taxi Association in Limpopo has expressed shock at the killing of its members in Zebediela. 2 taxi operators, a passenger and a passerby, were killed during the shooting at Muletlane village. There were also taxi-related killings in January and February this year. The association's spokesperson, Malusi Mudisha, says taxi drivers are now scared to operate.
The first one is the killing of the chairperson of association. And then after 2 weeks, they killed the treasurer for the same association. Now is the third one, this one doing. Maybe we'll, because of each and everyone is worried, because of each and everyone now is not safe. Even we can see all the passengers also today, the drivers, they are afraid to drive them because of they don't know which one is next to be killed.
The National Taxi Association's Franz Khasago has called on the police to arrest those responsible.
To be honest, to us, losing life because a loss of one person or two is too much. So we were seriously disturbed by the loss of our members, and our hearts are bleeding, as you can see. So the only thing that we want to see is that the law enforcement must do their work in such a way that at the end of the day, the perpetrators of these acts should be arrested.
And China's President Xi Jinping has met U.S. business leaders in Beijing's Great Hall of the People in an apparent attempt to woo back foreign firms to boost China's economy. The BBC's Laura Bicker has more.
In a video released by state media, Mr. Xi urged the US and China to seek common ground, even when they have their differences. He said the history of relations between the two was one of friendly exchanges and hoped for more. Engagements between the two superpowers are slowly resuming after relations sunk to their lowest in years due to clashes over trade policies, the future of democratically ruled Taiwan, and territorial claims in the South China Sea.
The top story at 5 o'clock, the cost of borrowing for consumers and businesses will remain the same after the Reserve Bank kept the repo rate unchanged at 8.25%. For SAFM News, in
your sports, Banyana all set to qualify for the Olympics, and Djokovic has parted ways with his coach after working together for 5 years. I'll have more on this at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in four ways is slow moving towards Winnie Mandela Drive exit. The N1 N12 southbound has a crash reported at Diepkloof interchange. This is a multi-vehicle pile-up queuing traffic on both routes. Main Reef Road is slow moving through the City West area. Golden Highway southbound is queuing through the Naturena area. The N1 northbound in Midrand is slow moving towards New Road. And in Pretoria, congestion with lots of slow moving traffic in the Marabastad area. In KZN, the M7 westbound is queuing towards the N2 highway. The N3 eastbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The N3 westbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. And the M7 eastbound is queuing towards Bel Air Road. The M7 is queuing at South Coast Road. The N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle that's just before Spaghetti Junction, and Alpine Road northbound is slow moving through Sydenham. In Cape Town, the N7 Jakes Hartwell Drive southbound is slow moving. That's towards Voortrekker Road. The N1 outbound has a stationary truck reported in the middle lane near Yiptiaga Drive exit. The M5 southbound is slow moving towards Kronboom Road. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend. Baden Powell Drive in Khayelitsha has sand on the carriageway, that's near Monwabizi, and Turfel Road in Hanover Park has a crime scene reported at Belgravia Road with heavy traffic in the area, so expect delays and diversions. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Good afternoon, this is your captain speaking with just a little flight information. We're flying at an altitude of 37,000 feet and our airspeed is 400 miles an hour.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to BTH Airline. I'm your co-pilot, Aldrin Sampear, and I'm with you from 3 to 6, flying you through the turbulent airwaves. But the landing will be smooth.
So just sit back and relax and enjoy the rest of the flight.
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
Oof, and that airline is about to be grounded. It's 9 minutes after 5 o'clock. So coming up on the show in this hour, we're in conversation with Karen Kitchen, who is a trademark attorney from Breed & Kump IP Attorneys, as we look at the story of Hermes International, which has been slapped with a class suit by consumers in California. This is in the United States of America. But also, like, what is it about the Hermes, especially the Birkin bag, that makes it so popular to such a point that you have a customer or customers in this particular case that want to go to court and argue that the company that is manufacturing these bags is contravening the antitrust laws of the United States and anti-competitive laws of the United States because they want this bag so much. However, though, the conditions and the criteria that is being used before you even become eligible for the bag is very, very stringent, including that you must buy some of their other products so that you can see that actually this is a person who loves our Hermes products, including the Birkin bag, which in some cases can go up to, I think the last one was close to about 10 million rand. 10 million rand. Would you pay 10 million rand for a bag? But some people look at it and say that this is an investment. So we look at that at that development that is happening in California. And then at 5:20, we speak to a commissioner of the South African Human Rights Commission, Pidile Ntuli. They are in KwaZulu-Natal, and today they honored Chief Albert Luthuli. That conversation is coming up at 5:20 as we wrap Human Rights Month.
Yes, my brother, Mr. Aldrin Sampear, it's a major concern to some of us. To say frankly, my brother, nobody does it better. But my beloved brother, you do it better. Every time you are presenting your program, it's like someone is preaching the gospel or message, and
Amen.
The Holy Spirit is with me. As you know that prayers got no distance. My free advice, there is no limit to what you can achieve in your life, my brother. This is a fruitful idea. Your next step is your step up. You have served SFM with distinction, my brother. You have done better because each question is a backbone. And school does not end until one dies. I think from now, I have to start praying Powerball or Lotto. Once I get it, I shall send you to MBC, which is Malawi Broadcasting Corporation. Anyway, when words are many, sin is not absent. Keep facing the sun. The shadows will always be behind you, my brother. I can see layers of potential in you, my brother.
Thank you.
And there is enough sun to dry your clothes, my brother. Glory honored to you, Macmillan, Kulila, Deben.
I thought you were going to say that you're going to send me some of the money if you win the lotto. How? Wants me to go and work again? 0614-104-107. And you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Thank you for that message.
Going Beyond the Headline with Aldrin Sampear.
So listen to this story. Hermes International has been slapped with a class lawsuit by consumers in California. The plaintiffs, Tina Cavalieri and Mark Glinoga, argue that the French luxury brand are unlawfully restricting customers from accessing products such as the Birkin bags and exploiting their market power through a purchase history requirement. The case has placed a spotlight on social value and economic demand for a Birkin bag. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, there have been a rise in value of global luxury brands. Hermes International argues that their strategy is a reward system. To share the possible implications of this case on the luxury brand, we speak to Karen Kitchen, who's a trademark attorney from Breed & Kump IP Attorneys. Karen, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. For me, the story sounds ludicrous, but surely here you have two individuals that want this bag so badly that they're willing to go to the courts to try and get Hermes International to change its rules. What do you make of the case before we speak about the IP?
Yes, so thank you, Aldrin, for having me on your station this afternoon. So it is indeed a very interesting case, and as you've correctly mentioned, it's been brought by two Californian residents against the luxury brand rights holder Hermes, which is a French company. And it's, as you say, in connection with the Birkin bag. Just for our listeners who don't know what a Birkin bag is, it is an absolute iconic and essentially a cultural icon and an absolute statement piece. It is a hand-stitched handbag, and it's more than just an accessory. It's a blend of fashion, function, and storytelling. So what Hermes appears to have done is that it only makes Birkin bags accessible to a certain consumer, i.e., a consumer that has bought X amount of their other products, being perhaps clothing, other handbags, accessories that they make available to their customers. So what has been alleged here by these California residents is that this is almost an anti-competitive practice, and one that is essentially discriminatory in nature, in that it is not, Birkin bags are not available just to the general consumer. They're only available to people that have spent X amount of money at the stores. And in fact, they're not always just available in the retail stores. The sales agents will invite certain customers to view the bags and then to purchase them. So it is an interesting practice, and there's a general school of thought that these plaintiffs in this US action will not succeed because they have a tough case and onus to fulfill in order to prove that this practice by Hermes is illegal and unlawful.
Yeah, it's quite incredible because also when you do get the call that there is a Birkin bag available for you, and you get taken into a private room where you're going to look at the bag and see whether you are happy with the bag, is that sometimes you don't even get the bag that you want.
Well, that's it. These consumers are also kind of alleging, or these plaintiffs rather, that there's a coercion almost by Hermes for its consumers to buy other items other than the Birkin bag in order to have access to the Birkin bag. Now, it's a question of, how coerced can a consumer be? At the end of the day, willing buyer, willing seller. So there are some ethical questions at play. And, certain consumers may absolutely get coerced into buying a Birkin bag that they don't necessarily want, depending on how good the salespeople are at their job, which probably they are, given that it's such an iconic luxury brand, the Hermes brand as it is. So as you say, there are social value systems at play. Is it discriminatory to only allow access to these specific bags to certain consumers? Or is it Hermes simply rewarding brand loyalty by consumers that are obviously very, very loyal and are big brand rights admirers of the Hermes brand?
Yeah, as they say, it's almost like a gift to say thank you for your loyalty. But the equivalent of right to admission when it comes to the sale of a service or sale of a product, does that also apply in this particular case, where a company can say that, sure, yes, you have the money to purchase a certain item, however, though, we do not want to sell it to you?
Absolutely. So there is this anti-competitive or restrictive practice called the practice of tie-in or tying in, which makes a sale conditional upon fulfillment of an obligation or a certain requirement, i.e. in this instance, you can, if you have spent X buying our other products, you will have access to these Birkin bags, which are the absolute creme de la creme that Hermes offers, etc. There is a case to be made. There are rules under competition laws or antitrust laws in the USA, which is where this case is unfolding, that disallow this kind of practice. But many luxury brands have engaged in this practice and have managed to do it for many years, and whether it's right or wrong is a legal one, and it depends on the facts of each case. But Hermes is not the first luxury brand that is engaged in this kind of a conditional sale practice. Ferrari is another one that has engaged in a similar practice where you can only have access to buy a LaFerrari if you have bought X amount of other Ferraris or other criteria that Ferrari have imposed in order to allow access to their absolute high-end LaFerrari vehicles.
It is an incredible business model because what it also does is that it increases the yearning for a Hermes bag, a Birkin bag. I want this bag so much. However, though the criteria of actually getting the bag are so stringent, that I think also is that it also pushes up the price. And with that pushing up of the price, I wonder whether the company would then be found guilty of artificially pushing up the price.
Yes, and that is the exact argument being raised by the complainants or the plaintiffs in this case. And if you look at the general principles of supply and demand, this kind of practice could be seen to be anti-competitive and essentially absolutely erasing the price of these Birkin bags and creating a somewhat of a monopoly right for Hermes. And they're obviously, whilst engaging in this kind of practice, whilst it ensures exclusivity for certain customers, it's exclusionary at the same time. And it can be seen to be discriminatory if the right evidence is put before the court, etc. And it somewhat could be regarded as alienating customers and making them feel that they are not good enough to have access to and or own a Birkin bag.
It's an interesting case. Thank you so much, Karen. It's fascinating, honestly. It's fascinating. So let's see what the courts would decide on this one. What's your take on it? Would you spend close to about 10 million rand for a Birkin bag? Are you one of those people who love bags? Or is it just about the brand for you? Is it this particular brand? I love this brand so much. So no matter how much the price goes up, I will still buy the bag. My question or my issue is that, so if you create this exclusivity, right, what it does is that it pushes up the price, artificially pushes up the price. I wonder on that particular basis if the company won't be found guilty.
Yes, so it. Look, I think it's going to be a very hard case for the plaintiffs to succeed on for various reasons that I'm not going to go into because of our limited time.
Yeah.
But it, especially amongst Generation Z or Gen Z rather, there's a big movement towards focusing on consumer empathy and creation of positive emotions amongst consumers, which will ultimately maintain long-term client relationships, etc. And there will still potentially be a detrimental impact on a brand like Hermes, even if they succeed in successfully defending themselves against these plaintiffs. There might still be social media backlash against them because of these kinds of practices, on the basis that they are, as I've already said, exclusionary.
I wonder if the clients would care about that, who want this bag, Noma Ganjan. But thank you so much for your time. That is Karen Kitchen there speaking to us about this lawsuit that has been brought against Hermes Bags, Hermes International. It is interesting. It is so fascinating that people are willing to spend so much money on a product. And I guess you also buy into a brand and you buy into the promise that the brand makes. And for some people, perhaps it's also a promise of exclusivity if you have a Birkin bag. 0614-104-107.
Hey, Aldrin and the SFM listeners. Anonymous here in Durban. I'm hearing about this bag. I think it's a Hermes bag, where they want some customers to buy a certain number of other items before they can get their hands on this bag. It's also quite popular in in some car markets, for example, supercars. For example, there's a Porsche 911 GT3 and GT3 RS. Basically, I hear in the UK, it's going for about, I think 25% off the new list price because it's in so much demand, and they can't allow you to have this car unless you have like a history of buying like particular supercars. Ferrari as well. There's some cars in Ferrari, I think, which are kept for those special clients. So yeah, it's a thing.
You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
Yep, it's 25 minutes after 5 o'clock. We're in conversation next with Pilile Ntuli, who's a commissioner of the South African Human Rights Commission. So as we wrap up Human Rights Month, the South African Human Rights Commission held a citation of honor for the late Chief Albert Luthuli in KwaZulu-Natal. This is also part of the South African Human Rights Commission's commemoration of 30 years of democracy and was also addressed by the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Zizi Kota. Let's now speak to Commissioner Ntuli, who's joining us on the line. Commissioner, good evening. Thank you so much for making time for us. Why specifically Chief Albert Luthuli?
Aldrin, good afternoon and good afternoon to your listeners. Before I answer your question, I have a message of congratulations to you from the South African Human Rights Commission as we bid you farewell from the airwaves.
Thank you.
We also congratulate you on a life very well lived and a giant spirit. We wish you all the best for wherever you are going.
That's very kind. Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Thank you, Eldon. Thank you so much. Now, with regards to the events of today, you are quite right to say that we are wrapping up our Human Rights Month. And from the beginning of the month, together with other like-minded institutions, we have held various events across the country to commemorate this very important Human Rights Month. And one of those events happened today where we remembered and invoked the spirit of the first Nobel Prize laureate in the continent, Chief Albert Luthuli. We did so as a way to honor his work and his contribution to the fight for human rights, but we also did so as a means to honor other human rights defenders and champions across the province. And we are doing so to inspire others and to infiltrate a culture of human rights across the country and to make it fashionable to be activists amongst both the young as well as the old.
So what is it, though, that you're trying to achieve with this? And my issue also is that Chief Albert Luthuli is known to be a member of the ANC, and this is happening as we head into the elections. My concern is how some people may just perceive something like this. However, though, we can't wish away the contribution that Chief Albert Luthuli has made to this country, that we now enjoy this particular democracy.
You are absolutely right, Aldrin. We cannot wish away the contribution, the massive contribution of Chief Albert Luthuli from our history, from the fight for liberation, whatever party under which he did so. His contribution remains one that is worth celebrating, that is worth remembering, and that is worth invoking. He remains one of the most prominent leaders in our historical trajectory when it comes to the defense of human rights. And we, as the South African Human Rights Commission, when we thought of his name, we did not think of him as a member of the ANC, but we thought of him as a human being and as an activist who has played a particular role in our history of defending and promoting human rights.
Okay. Commissioner, just quickly as we conclude, your provincial office in KwaZulu-Natal, of course, having some of the investigations looking into allegations of abuse of human rights in relation to where government entities are failing with regards to service delivery. How far is the office with regards to that investigation?
Do you have a specific investigation that you are asking about, Aldrin, or is it just investigations in general?
It is investigations in general, because I remember there was an advisory that was sent that from the 26th, I think, up until the 28th, there will be this particular investigation that is being done, and also hearing from members of the public or inquiry into allegations of a failure by state entities to ensure that the human rights of people in KwaZulu-Natal are upheld.
we conduct our work continuously, and we conduct investigations continuously, Aldrin. The program that we conducted from the 25th up until the 28th forms part of an ongoing and continuous work that we do as a Human Rights Commission. And as such, we have ongoing investigations that we are conducting, some which we have concluded and returned to complainants, and others who have raised possible human rights violations. This week in particular, we conducted site visits to various communities where we observed, as part of our mandate of monitoring the observance of human rights. And out of that process of monitoring, we are therefore going to draw a report with the recommendations for particularly those actors who are responsible to take action in redressing where redress is needed.
Thank you so much for your time. Pilile Ntuli is a commissioner of the South African Human Rights Commission. It is 5:30, time for the news headlines.
Thank you very much, Aldrin, and a very good afternoon. With the news headlines, Kim Mujupima Khalimele. Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis has tabled a draft budget of around 76 billion rand for the 2024-25 financial year, saying it is targeting a huge investment in infrastructure. The cost of borrowing for consumers and businesses will remain the same after the Reserve Bank kept the repo rate unchanged at 8.25%. And England's Environment Agency says water companies released record amounts of raw sewage into rivers and the sea last year. Details of these and other stories, 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 N12 southbound has a crash reported at Diepkloof interchange. This is a multi-vehicle pile-up, so expect some heavy delays queuing on traffic on both routes. The R59 southbound in Alberton has slow-moving traffic reported towards Swartkoppies Road. Main Reef Road is slow-moving through the City West area. Rivonia Road northbound is queuing towards Witkoppen Road, and the N1 southbound in Pretoria has a stationary vehicle after Riegel Avenue. In KZN, the N2 northbound's crash just before the M41 gateway exit has been cleared. The N2 northbound is a stationary vehicle at Spaghetti Junction. The N2 southbound is queuing towards the N7 highway, and the N3 eastbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the N7 Jakes Hartwell Drive southbound is slow moving towards Voortrekker Road. The R300 southbound in Mitchells Plain has delays at Stock Road. The N1 outbound is slow moving between Century City and Brackenfell, and Plattekloof Road southbound is slow moving at Rothschild Road. With your traffic updates, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Khapele.
In your sports this hour, starting off with tennis, world number one Novak Djokovic has ended his partnership with Croatian coach Goran Ivanisevic after 5 years together. Ivanisevic joined Djokovic's team back in 2019 and helped the 36-year-old win 9 Grand Slam titles. Djokovic will gear up for the clay season as he bids to claim a 4th title at the French Open, which is starting on the 26th of May. In football, Banyana coach Desiree Ellis has confirmed that goalkeeper Andile Dlamini has withdrawn from the squad that will face Nigeria in the final Olympic qualifier due to medical reasons. South Africa will face the Super Falcons in a 2-legged qualifier, with the first leg on the 5th of April away in Nigeria and the second one at Loftus Stadium in Pretoria on the 9th of April. Ellis says that she's comforted though by the fact that they have players like Refilejane and Bambanani Mbane back after their long-term injuries.
We've lost players at the last minute, We obviously, minus Andile. Andile has withdrawn through medical reasons. But I'm really, really happy, that we have Pambanani back, we have Bongeka back, we have Siboleli back, we have Refilejane back. That really warms my heart, and it's very encouraging because, those are your more experienced players, and experience in this essence is really going to help in this situation because, as you've earlier said, it might be hostile because we know how passionate the fans of Nigeria are back home, and they will be screaming for their team, and we need that experience to be able to get over this hurdle.
fill up Loftus Stadium. Then Nottingham Forest have been fined £75,000 by the FA for failing to control players and staff after they lost to Liverpool, and that was on the 2nd of March. Forest first team coach Stephen Reid had been handed a 2-match touchline suspension and also £5,000 fine. The match ended in chaos, with the Forest coaching team angered by the ref's decision in the game as a whole. Then in rugby, the junior Springboks will kick off their inaugural Rugby Championship Under-20 tournament with an exciting match against New Zealand on the 2nd of May at the Sunshine Coast Stadium. The Under-20 Rugby Championship will see the upcoming stars of Argentina, Australia, New Zealand and South Africa do battle in the first of its kind between the 4 Southern Hemisphere nations. The top team after the 3-round 6-match tournament will be declared the first Rugby Championship Under-20 Championship. With that said, it is a wrap from my side. You
must explain.
Mudimukyo just says, this is direct translation, God be with you. So I'm not cursing anyone. If anything, I'm blessing you.
Mudimukyo. Thank you.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Jimmy, a Hermes bag or not? What do they call it again? The financial decisions that individuals take to invest their money in luxury brands instead of investing their money in commodities or like on the market, something like that. Some people prefer to invest in bags.
You are asking the wrong person, Aldrin, because I would absolutely tell you to go for it, because I am a huge proponent of alternative investments. In fact, if you look at the performance of alternative investments, in some cases they've outstripped the performance of things like the S&P, like traditional markets. So as a complement to your existing portfolio, there's nothing wrong with considering investing in things like Hermes bags. For a bit of context, there was a Ferrari F40, one of the most expensive Ferraris out there in existence. And I think the return profile on a Ferrari F40 over the last 10 years, as per a wealth report done by Henley & Partners and New World Wealth Research, suggested that the return on that Ferrari over a 10-year period would have been close to 88%, which if you average it out over a year is a consistent return of at least almost 10% per year. Oof. And in some cases, markets don't do that. So there is definitely a business case for alternative investments, for investments in luxury assets, things like Rolexes, things like classic cars, Hermes bags. Luxury assets are definitely a market. I mean, if they weren't, the likes of Hermes, Kering, the LVMH group, Cartier, Richemont wouldn't exist as a business. So there's definitely an entire investment case for that. And I think the lawsuit that's going on right now is going to be a very difficult one to prove, because luxury assets are an investment class.
Yeah, and it's about exclusivity also, I guess, for the customers. But anyway, let's come back home. Momentum, and also looking at Old Mutual's results.
Yes, results kind of day today with Momentum reporting half-year results for the year. Half-year ended 31 December, and Old Mutual reporting full-year results for that period. So I'm speaking to the group CEO at Momentum, the incoming CEO, that's Jeanette Marais, who's just started her tenure about 7 months ago, as well as the CFO at Old Mutual, Casper Trotsky, around those numbers and just try and make sense of both companies, the performance, how their insurance is insurance businesses have fared, how their asset management and investment businesses have fared as well. I've also got a conversation with Sasria, the CEO of Sasria, around what's happening in South Africa, what we've seen in terms of the landscape in an election year, what it means for insurance claims. We saw the July unrest of 2021 be a very interesting focal point and a very interesting case study to learn from. And Sasria was right at the center of that, with companies obviously not anticipating that this would happen, and we're just going to dig into that and see what it means for us in an election year, and for a company like Sasria, how they're approaching this kind of uncertainty that comes with that. And then we've got our Executive Lounge segment, and I'm chatting to the CEO of Personal Private Banking at Standard Bank around what she gets up to when she's not working for Standard Bank. She's been at Standard Bank for 18 years, and we're just going to dig into what keeps her there and what some of her passions are. But before we get to all of that, the markets have had their own day as well. They haven't been reacting to our conversations around luxury. They've been reacting to things that have been said by central banks and data points that have been coming out. We'll start with global markets, starting with international equity markets. Australia was up about 0.5%, Hong Kong and Shanghai down about a full percent there, with Tokyo up about almost a full percent. In European markets, France was up say 0.4%, with Germany up 0.2%, and the FTSE finishing absolutely flat. Nothing to be inspired by there. If we look at US markets at the moment, they're trading in the green with the exception of NASDAQ. That's down about 0.1%, with S&P up 0.25%. Our local markets had a good day. We were up about 0.4% on the all share and the top 40, largely off the back of industrials being up again almost a full percent, and financials up 0.33%. Resources again down for the second day at down 0.25%. So the second consecutive day where we're seeing resources down, but the other two sectors pulling the market up for the day. If we look at some commodity numbers, gold reaching $2,190 an ounce at the moment, up 0.2%, likely to breach 2,200 between now and next week. Brent crude up at $86.04 a barrel there. Platinum $907 an ounce. Palladium back below $1,000 at $979 an ounce there. And if we look at some currency movements, the rand strengthening slightly from yesterday's trade, up about 0.5% at 18 rand 89 against the dollar, strengthening about 0.5% as well against the pound at 23.84, and about 0.2% against the euro at 20 rand and 44 cents. If you are in Bitcoin, that is down about 1.5% at $69,139 there, and Ethereum down also at around $3,515. We're going to dig into these and other movements a little later on when we come back. For now, Aldrin, back to you and the team.
Thank you so much. And Jimmy Moyaha is back again just after 6 o'clock. We're taking your voice notes on 0614-104107. And you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086-000-2032.
Hashtag SAFMBTH.
Afternoon, Aldrin, after SAFM listeners. Aldrin, can we maybe officially bribe you? We're going to open an Aldrin Club so that we can contribute something to make you stay, you know? We can pay an additional salary for you. Yeah, Aldrin, I went out and spied on where you are going. Yeah, unfortunately now we'll try and follow you, but now, you know, it's not that practically possible because it will cause accidents. You know, we normally would talk to you when we're driving. But Aldrin, you've made an impact and you've really changed this afternoon show. I wish you all the best wherever you're going. And I'm saying to the team, they should continue doing what you've done with them, and will hopefully still enjoy the show. Thank you. Z from Bloemfontein.
Thank you so much, Z.
Good afternoon, Aldrin and SAFM listeners. This story about the bags that you can only buy if you've got a purchasing history with the company sounds like some of our grocery retailers here in South Africa, where you have to have a whole little booklet full of stickers showing how much you've spent at the shop before you can buy a certain set of pot and pans or knives and forks.
But those are loyalty points.
It's much cheaper, but still the same, essentially the same concept. MJ from Cape Town.
No, you make a good point. A number of retailers actually do that. So every time you purchase something and then you get some stickers, let's say for every 100 rand that you spend, you get a sticker. You collect all of those stickers and then you decide whether you want to get a pot, crockery, sometimes utensils as well. My person, Kanya, is big on that. He is big on that. My person is a collector of stickers. He is a collector of stickers, and he looks forward to it. He looks forward to it. Like, baby, did you ask for stickers? No, you must go and ask for stickers. Yeah, but I totally get you. I think that is it. It is the same theory. You must have a history of purchasing. But of course, here is that you're going to get, quote unquote, a free item for being a loyal customer.
Hi, Aldrin. Yes, so on the Hermes handbags, you know what? That's what the elite manufacturers do because they want to be known to be an elitist product. Ferrari does the exact same. I remember that if you wanted to purchase the Enzo, you had to own something like 4 or 5 Ferraris prior, purchased brand new from Ferrari itself, and then the one clause was you can only sell it back to Ferrari at a price that they will determine. And you know what, it's just a way of elite service providers keeping their elite clients in their little elite circle. And honestly, I can't afford a Ferrari or a Berks handbag, but I don't see anything wrong with it.
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
It's 15 minutes now before 6 o'clock. We're in conversation next with Ngazelo Ncube Mlilo, who's the Executive Director for the Psychosocial and Mental Health Organization, POLA, and developer of the Outrage methodology. So, we tell you more about the unique Outraged concept, which is more of a social program that targets boys and aimed at ensuring that they become agents of a change. We understand that the program has helped a lot in transforming schools and the environment as it empowers the teenage boys to play a more meaningful role in the fight against gender-based violence. Ngazelo, good morning, or rather it's good evening now. Good evening. Thank you so much for making time for us. Let's speak about this program. How did you come up with the idea and what is it that you'd want to achieve here?
Good evening, Aldrin. Lovely to be here. So Outraged is a framework that I developed in 2019. The idea behind the framework was really to kind of think about a process that we could engage men and boys who use violence or are at risk of using violence in their relationships with others. It is a story group approach where each letter in the acronym Outraged represents a specific step in a process to help people to unlearn and relearn different ways of being that are informed so that they make a choice for themselves to live their lives in preferred ways and counter identities dominated by anger and violence, which is normally the idea that men and boys are perpetrators of violence. And so in our approach as an organization, we believe that men and boys have been recruited into practices of violence and abuse, and many of them have not been given an opportunity to actually engage in a process that gets them to understand what is violence, how are they recruited into these ways of being, and to learn other possibilities in terms of, access other territories of identity that are more preferred. So, yeah, that is the work that we do. So we've been rolling out Outraged in schools, particularly in formal settlements around Johannesburg, responding to gang violence and issues of bullying, and really seeing young people as, presenting with a window to learn just different ways of being and not just to go with the narrative that they are violent, but what else is possible. So what really inspired Outraged, I was just sitting at a conference at some point, and people were talking about outrage and that we need to be outraged by violence. And then I thought it would be fantastic to have men and boys being outraged by violence and being agents of social change and bringing change into their families, their communities, and their societies. So let's use this idea of outrage to kind of think about how this can be an outcome of a process that young people, and adults can go through to learn different ways of being. Yeah.
And just for the benefit of our listeners, outrage is an acronym, but I want to go to the first T in outrage, tracing the history of a GBV in our communities. It's very interesting for me because I don't know if you've ever read the book What Happened to You by Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey. They speak about how what happens to us in our childhood has a way of presenting itself in our adult lives, and sometimes very violently so as well, to such a point that you have to pause and trace where did everything go wrong, and sometimes it leads you back to your childhood.
Fantastic. Definitely. I'm quite familiar with the book, although I've never really gone through it myself. But what we do find is that a lot of our young people have experienced trauma and abuse. The stresses that they go through, are just a lot. And you can almost understand why a child ends up, the way that they do. And so that is something that is, we've learned it, we've seen it. And therefore, that's why we choose to take a non-judgmental and non-blaming approach to the subject matter and to talk to them about, how they have been perhaps recruited into ways of being that go against their better judgment, that go against their own values. What is their preferred sense of being? And so trying to kind of support them to create pathways into living their lives, and just reigniting a sense of personhood that is founded upon Ubuntu, upon my values, things that are protective that I've learned from my family, from my culture. How do I tap onto this so that I can, emerge as someone who is more about advancing equality and presenting myself, in ways that are caring and kind. And it's also a process of saying, what does it mean to be a boy? What does it mean to be a man? What are some of the cultural knowledges that we have, around who we are? And young people will talk about, we know that we are protectors, that, we are providers. And so how can we tap into some of those positive things? But how can we also question patriarchy and male dominance that produces, outcomes that are really sort of challenging some of our core values of what we can become? So it's a process of having conversations with young people that allow them to arrive at conclusions for themselves about who they want to be and what they are about.
Yeah. Actually, John Kani once said that if you do not abuse women, there would be no need to protect them. And with that said, as well, is this socialization that says because you are a man, because you are a boy child, there is the expectation that you must be the protector. And for me, that crafting of identity of having to be the protector almost then assumes the position of if you look at the positionality of it as well, is that you assume the position of being one that is expected to provide the protection, but sometimes the lines get blurred as well, because then you also become the one that is violent.
Yeah. And so, there are those contradictions that exist, and we render those visible so that young people can talk about these things and then deduce for themselves what they feel is preferred. We do understand that there's also a lot of expectations around what it means to be a boy, what it means to be a man, and it comes with, things that are sometimes, overwhelming. And when you are not able to fit, with that also becomes problematic. So if this is what is going on, then what does this mean for us? What is the way that we want to be living out so that we don't feel the pressure as much as we would like to protect, but also we do understand that we are also vulnerable and that there are many, challenges that we experience, and that we can cry, we can talk about those things and not feel that we are inhibited because of our gender and who we are. And so there are contradictions, there are complexities. But what we have found is that when young people engage in these processes, they emerge, in amazing ways. We've worked in schools where young people, are armed with knives, and there's lots of bullying and violence. And the outcome is that they're disarmed. They leave these things, and they talk about cohesion and developing connectedness and a sense of empathy and understanding. And so there's something about this experience that really shifts perspectives and attitudes and behaviors around issues of violence. And by the way, we also use outraged with men in communities, and we've seen very similar type of benefits and outcomes for men too.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, and all the best with this work. Ngazelo Ncube Mlilo is the Executive Director for the Psychosocial and Mental Health Organization, POLA, and has also developed this methodology called Outrage. 0614-104-107.
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
Well, I wonder about the bag. It's an exclusive bag, you see, meaning very few people are able to get it. So now I wonder about scammers. If those who brought in the case win the case, so now it means anyone can buy the case, the bag. So now they can scam people and say, look, I have a backing bag, I'm a legit business person.
I'm sure you're Tolagala is small.
You see, DPP, it's something that is free, that is open, that is seen by everyone, not hidden, not covered. It's there for everyone to see. It's like if the sun is up in the sky or the clouds are there up in the sky. Anybody can see without hindrance, without obscurity, without being prevented. So that's what it means. It's obvious in the open.
Wow, good afternoon, SAFM. What a mess it sounds like with the IEC and the objections and all these rules. To me, it's a clear indication that anything and everything must be done to get Jacob Zuma out of the way. That is a clear indication to me. There's just too many rules with the IEC. Too many rules. Who are they? Whose music are they dancing to? Teresa, Cape Town.
Teresa, with this case, it is not actually the IEC, it's the ANC versus the MK party, and this is over the logo. The ANC saying that it is its IP, it's its intellectual property, and remember actually at the Electoral Court it was the IEC that was defending the registration and decision by the IEC CEO to register the MK party.
You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
We've come to the end of our voyage. Thank you so much for choosing flight SAFM BTH 326 with me, Aldrin Sampear. Today we are playing out with Lunch Money Lewis Bills, and our parting shot is from Roy T. Burnett, who once said, "Do not let the memories of your past limit the potential of your future. There are no limits to what you can achieve on your journey through life, except in your mind." And Tabitha from Mayerton is reading our credits this evening.
We are about to land the BTH flight. It has been a rather entertaining and informative show. My name is Tabitha Hosimure from Mayerton, and I would like to thank the team behind the scenes. Team Kanya, Temba, Tumi, Phineas, Charles, Vusi, and of course, our very own outgoing Captain Aldrin Sampear.
Ooh, love it.
Riri, the world is an oyster, and good luck with your future endeavors.
Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
Tabitha, it sounds like your voiceover artist, huh? That was incredible. Remember to love each other and lead with compassion. Dotins, enjoy the rest of your evening.
I got big, woke up and I bumped my head stuck.
touch me now.